Welcome to I Am Me podcast. I'm your host, Liz Bachman, and on this podcast, I want to celebrate you for being you. I'm super excited to sit down with my guests each week and talk about their journey, their experiences, and where they came from. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to I Am Me. Today I'm super excited. I get to sit down and talk to Sonny Dang. He is a New York City model, and he also does some club promotion on the side. I've never met him before, so this is, I think, the first person I've interviewed that I have not met, so I'm excited to see how this goes. But with all that being said, how you doing today, Sonny?
Hi, I'm doing great, Liz. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. Super excited to sit and talk with you. Just kind of kicking things off, the first thing I always like to ask people is, how did you get into what you're doing? So modeling, how did that kind of start for you?
So I was in college, but I was taking a year off. Tuition was getting a little crazy and I was paying for that myself out of pocket. So I took the year off to save up some money working here and there, and I landed a job as a server in Manhattan. I'm working at this Mediterranean restaurant, and one day this girl comes into the store and she walks up to me and goes, "Hey, do you model? And if not, or would you be interested?" And
wow.
Out here, with plates in my hands, I'm serving food to people, and I go, "No, I don't model. People have told me in the past that I should consider it. Mainly my sister, but it's kind of like a scenario where your mom tells you, 'Oh, you're so beautiful,' right? I always thought it was just because it was my sister telling me, and so I tell her, 'No, I don't model. People have told me. I guess I would be interested.' I had no idea what the fashion industry is like.
Right.
And so it's just something that I always thought was kind of cool, but no clue what the industry is about. So this girl, she tells me, "Okay, come to my place in Brooklyn and I'll take photos of you." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay."
You're like, wait a minute.
It's kind of weird. I don't know. It's like a situation where it's if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Well, actually, it turned out to not be the case. And I was hesitant at first. I did decline in the moment, but maybe 1 or 2 weeks later, actually ended up reaching out. Yeah, things turned out fine. We did meet up somewhere beforehand so I could get to know her, and went to her place in Brooklyn. And then, she explained the whole thing to me, how it works, how it usually works for models, that I would be hopefully signing with an agent, and that, they would take commissions off of any bookings that they get me. It's sort of similar to acting. And then, she took photos, sent them out to a couple of agencies. Nothing really landed at first for a while, but I kind of took things in my own hands for a bit. And then I landed into a big agency, and I had been with them for 3 years. And then
I'm curious. So her angle, was she a photographer who was trying to get her start, or why? I guess what did she get out of seeking you out and having you? Because that's a lot of work on her part.
She actually was a model herself.
Okay.
She was also trying to create her own agency. She really was recruiting models. In the industry, we have this thing called mother agents. And so I did sign with her initially, but we had a bit of a falling out.
Okay. That's common. I can't relate to modeling, but just as an actor, I can relate to sometimes there's falling out with agents, and sometimes you have to move on, and you ultimately have to do what's best for you.
My relationship with her was becoming a little volatile. We had some disagreements on how I should be marketed, the direction I wanted to go in the industry. So I think, we left on okay-ish terms.
So I imagine modeling, is it like acting in that you really have to kind of fend for yourself, and you are marketing yourself, you're your product that you're trying to sell? Is that similar in modeling, that it works that way?
I would say models don't have as much direction as actors. At the end of the day, if you're assigned model, your booker is the one who kind of tells you hey, we want this certain look for you. And for the most part, you kind of just go with the flow, right? Whatever they say kind of goes. They're the one who's pushing you out, and they're the ones with the connections. Yeah, you just kind of stick to what works. Now, sometimes maybe you want to, I don't know, change your hair or something. You kind of want the okay from your booker. Otherwise, it gets a little risky with let's just say you do fashion and now your new style doesn't work for fashion. Well, now your booker has to totally revamp your comm card and digitals so that when they do push your portfolio, like it's going to be for the right type of job.
Is that hard for you staying in certain boundaries because you can't really change your appearance much without getting some type of approval? Does that get frustrating with you if you're like, I kind of want to, like, I don't know, do something crazy, dye my hair a crazy color, and you're just like, oh, I can't? Or are you just good with it because you know this is what you want to do?
For me personally, I don't like to go crazy type of styles anyways.
Mm,
So whatever my booker says, it's usually best for me for the industry and for like real life. I don't really have a crazy fashion sense. I'm a pretty simple guy.
mm-hmm,
Button downs, jeans. I don't know. Like for some people, like, you want to express yourself, and
mm-hmm.
that's totally normal for people. Depending on the type of things you do, like fashion, maybe you can get away with it. But commercial work, right? As you know, a lot of clients want like just a regular, normal person, your everyday, casual. So you can't go like red hair, green hair, pink hair, and like mohawk, right? Like it wouldn't work. So for me, I mainly do commercial work, lifestyle. I keep it simple.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about how booking or any of that process of what that is like for a model. How does that work for you? How does, as an actor, we go on auditions, but how does bookings
Hmm.
come about for a model?
There's several ways to get booked. One, obviously, your agent. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times they'll do most of the legwork. Sometimes, if you're freelancing, there are several ways of getting booked. I mean, forums, Craigslist, as weird as it sounds, but I've honestly booked some pretty big jobs like on Craigslist.
Oh, wow.
There's like was it Backstage, Actors
Mm-hmm.
Access? They have model jobs there all the time. Just some people don't know. Where else? Instagram, like sometimes people will reach out to you via DM,
Mm-hmm.
with the job offer. I've booked like a couple of campaigns actually, just like direct bookings. Yeah, that's it. It's like simple. So there's like many ways to get booked. It just depends on like whether or not you want to go with like an agent or if you want to work on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have to take care of yourself with that and track your bookings and like your paychecks and invoices.
Okay. And then our rates for models when you book. So acting, we have different SAG rates and stuff like that. Or is it just people, is there a union affiliated with modeling? Or is it just, this is what we're going to pay you for this project? And then you just decide whether or not you're going to accept.
Pretty much whatever the client wants to pay you, you can negotiate. If you're
Mm-hmm.
freelancing, right? If you're working on your own, you have like room to negotiate, but you got to know like how much this job is worth. So we get paid a session fee, and then we get paid usage fee, depending on like the type of job. Usually, it's like bigger clients that pay usage fees. Startup companies don't most of the time, just because of like budget. Big campaigns, like usually that involve like a billboard. That's the type of thing that will pay a usage fee, and if you use up that usage fee, like for example, 3 years is what the client will use this campaign for. If past 3 years they decide to still use it, they can renew for like X amount, and that'll be determined by both parties beforehand.
How long have you been modeling?
Almost 5 years.
And then my question is, how do you feel like you've progressed from the beginning to where you are now? Because I imagine modeling, I mean, I definitely think it's a skill that you have to, get good at knowing how to pose and stuff like that. And I imagine nerves in the beginning versus where you are now. I'm sure there's still nerves, but how do you feel like that progression has happened for you? Or what do you do to, I guess, get better at modeling?
In the beginning, I was marketed as like Asian fashion model. I think for me, that was a totally different skill to have.
Mm-hmm.
Fashion and lifestyle are different in the sense of what things you can do, like poses that you can do, and just like type of look. Very different. One is more like edgy, more attitude. The other is just more relaxed. Just be yourself, but also be mindful of the audience you want to portray to. I did have to learn a couple of things like walking the runway, for example. It sounds easy, just walk like a human, just a normal human being. But then sometimes, depending on the outfits you wear, it can affect like really like how you walk, or sometimes the show will be outside in the cold and you have to look like you're not miserable, like freezing your ass off, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's like different conditions you kind of have to be able to work in. Sometimes you have to work like just 90-degree weather, or I guess like 100-degree weather, like outside in the woods or something, wearing fall clothes or winter clothes. Because when clients shoot for their products, they have to shoot ahead of time, right? So if it's like winter clothes, we're most likely shooting end of summer. You're wearing jackets, right? In the dead of the heat. So these things like can add up. Like if you're not like physically fit, I mean you're gonna like pass out during set, and that's not good for anyone.
I was going to say, do you prefer the commercial jobs more? Do you like more of the lifestyle stuff, or do you miss doing fashion at all?
So for a while, I did miss doing fashion. It is the more glamorous job, but unfortunately fashion doesn't pay that much.
Mm,
And as I'm getting older, bills are, adding up. Commercial pays, I mean, I'd say almost 3 times as much.
wow. I wouldn't expect that. I would think
Yeah,
it'd be the other.
right.
Yeah, I think it'd be the other way around. So that's really
And
interesting.
that's what most people kind of assume too. I mean, even for me, like when you look at modeling, a lot of what you see is fashion, a lot of what you see is runway. But turns out runway is actually what pays the least, if at all. And it's kind of like sad because most models that come to New York, they have this dream of, working as a model. But what
Mm,
ends up happening is not a lot of working models. And so we have a very oversaturated market with a
hmm.
lot of people looking to get a leg in, looking for work, and it ends up like where you need to get like a side job. So like for me, thankfully, like I've been doing this for about 5 years. I'm grateful to say that I am a working model and I'm still working in the business, but I am like a lot older. I started late. Most people start like in their teenage years, especially females. They start like as young as 14 years old, and I started like 23. I'm 28 now, so I'd say like modeling for me is not coming close to an end, but I do have to start thinking about like other avenues of like for a career, right?
Right.
So thankfully, I do have a degree also.
That's interesting because as an actor, I don't really think about having, a shelf life, so to speak. But as a model, I guess you do. So, like an athlete, that there will be a time where your looks will change to a point that you start to stop and slow down, and you have younger people coming in behind you.
Yeah, so that's why like the commercial and lifestyle is a lot better for a lot more models, just because there's not like an age limit really. It just depends on what's needed at the time of the season, or what type of products are being marketed. A wide range of like ages that can model in commercial.
Do you have a shoot like a that was like your favorite, or one that really stands out that you just are really proud of or enjoyed doing?
Yeah, I have a few actually. I'd say most recently this campaign I did for Cole Haan, just like a shoe company. They are releasing eyewear now, and so I was able to do a campaign with them. The campaign was marketed on their social media, so that was pretty huge. And they put a billboard in Times Square, so a lot of people that I know, they see the billboard and they always like, hey, is this you? Like, oh, we saw you in Times Square. Like, this is crazy. And it's not like a small billboard either. It's like it's like up there. It's like huge.
That's
Everyone sees
awesome.
it like by the stairs, the iconic stairs in Times Square. So yeah, of course I had to check it out. I'm out here just like taking videos of myself, just all giggly and all that. But this isn't the first time I've had a billboard. I've also worked with another company called JD Sports, and they open a flagship in New York. So I did a campaign with them a few years back, and yeah, they had like a smaller one. It was cool. Got to see like me up there. That one was exciting because that was the one where like I got to show my parents like, hey, mom, dad, like I'm in Times Square. Like this is pretty cool, right?
That would kind of be an epitome of, feeling like you've made it. If you could go to Times Square and look at a billboard of yourself, that would just feel like I've done it. Like I've done the thing. I don't feel like you could achieve much more than that.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
sure you
definitely like,
could, but
yeah, it definitely felt like an accomplishment, especially as a model, right? That's you
mhm.
always want, to see your campaign up and running, Times Square, especially, like on TV or something like that. That's pretty much always the goal. Like I said, I've had two. So right now the goal is to have two billboards running in Times Square at the same time. But I
Oh,
don't know. That's going to be a lot harder. I'm not going to lie. Because
that's
what
really
what
cool though.
happens is that when you do a job, when you work with a client and they're gonna like market it for a billboard or something like that, it takes a while before that gets pushed out. So I did Kohan like last year, and the billboard didn't come out until like during the summer.
That's very similar to acting. You'll book a job and you'll work, and then people, friends or family will be like, when can I see it? And you're like, probably in like a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah,
Like,
if even that.
yeah, I know. I've gotten careful about showing people work that I've done until I've seen it and known that I actually made the final product,
Oh yeah.
because I'm like not trying to be cut out of it and like, oh, actually you just see like my pinky in this shot.
Oh, please, not the pinky.
I was going to say, so kind of on the flip side of that, what is a project that kind of failed for you or just did not go well? And then how did you recover from that?
There was a eyewear company, a startup. They were trying to like get their products out by spring. So we did a shoot in the winter. It was like third week of December. In New York, it's just cold, 30, 20 degrees. We did the shoot by Dumbo. We're walking the bridge. It was just like super windy, super cold. But the client wanted some of these shots to be no jacket. They wanted it to look like it was spring, right? So a
Oh,
light
geez.
jacket is what I had to wear for the shots. The photographer I was working with, like he was a great guy, but very, very, very picky. And he would want like certain shots in a certain pose, or maybe there was just too many people in the background, or just something would affect a shot. We need to retake it. And I just remember just like, kill me. Like, I'm so over it. I'm not getting paid nearly enough for this shot. It was only like a 2 hour shot too, but it felt like a whole day.
Right.
And walking like from Manhattan to Dumbo and then Dumbo back to
Hmm.
Manhattan, it was like, yeah, I remember that being one of the worst photo shoots for me. And I didn't even get to see the pictures. Like, I don't even think the company is up and running anymore. So,
Oh, that
I try to think
sucks.
of like, yeah, I try to think of that as like it only goes up from here.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so looking back on your career, would you, if anything, would you do anything differently? Just knowing what you know now, would you approach things differently? I guess, how would that kind of change for you?
Oh, 100%. I wish somebody told me that don't like hope for too much out of like modeling. It for me, really, it's not a career, you know. And if for most people it's a short-lived one.
Hmm.
I really wish somebody told me kind of like just either get a side job, which I've done like club promoting a lot earlier, or just work in modeling and focus on college. I was really hoping for modeling to kick off like a lot harder for myself. Definitely my expectations are more tame now.
I think that's an important point to make, because that's one thing that has changed for me with acting, to be, because acting is it's more of a long road. If you stick with it, it's not a quick, you just, you make it or have success. And I think it's a really good thing to recommend, even as models or actors or anything in that vein, because they're close together, I would say, in a lot of ways. But just to find balance in your life, was it like, did you feel like you had to just be all about modeling all the time in order to find success or achieve your goals?
I felt like in the beginning, the harder I tried, the more opportunities would come to me. That's not really the case, at least for me. Um, what ended up working best is just like focusing on myself and letting those opportunities come to me, whether or not it was when I was signed with an agent or working solo and freelancing. For like being with an agency, obviously, you have somebody who books you the jobs. But like you gotta know like what type of agency will look out for you, and you kind of get the general idea of how much they like you pretty much in like your first three meetings with them. Communication is really important too with between model and booker. Knowing what to expect from them is a big step in knowing how the next 3 years of your contract will look like. And that's how long like most models will be with an agency. We have 3 year contracts. Whether or not it's a good time is like it depends on how much like agency likes you. And vice versa though with freelancing, yeah, like you have to submit yourself to different like projects. We have self tapes, right? I'm sure like as actors you have self tapes
For
too.
sure.
We do self tapes as auditions, or we'll go to like a casting. But as a freelancer, you have to know like where those castings are, right? They're not like marketed on Instagram, like anybody can come. Like these are like clients are selecting people. Sometimes it can be hard to find like the in for a casting
Yeah.
per se. But that's why like there's like Craigslist. Like I do say Craigslist, but it does work sometimes, I swear. And there's like the apps, right? They do help with freelance models, startup companies who can't hire like these professional models like in IMG, Wilhelmina, like these big agencies.
Did you notice any toxicity in the modeling industry? Because I feel like when I hear about modeling, that's something I have talked to, because I have a few actor friends who are models who transitioned into acting, but they're females, and they talk about some of the toxicity in modeling. And I don't know if that's the same for males.
I will say 100% females get the brunt of the work. Males have it way easier
Mm.
in the industry. Our standards are not even like close to being as strict as for females. So aside from lifestyle and commercial work, I do fit modeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have to watch out for my measurements. I can't deviate too much, but for the most part, like I'm okay. Like I don't have to really worry about weight fluctuations. As long as I fit my measurements, I'm good. Females, even if they're not in fit, like they're expected to be like super skinny
Mm-hmm.
and weigh like between like 90 to like 105 pounds. And if you kind of like go over just a little bit, your agency's on top of that.
Wow.
I know a lot of girls who it does affect them some way or another. Lifestyle, even. They're always worried about what they're eating. And it's like when I see that, it kind of breaks my heart,
Right.
Like you have to skip breakfast, lunch even sometimes, or like when you do eat like girl dinner, right? Like I know it's like a joke, but it's honestly a thing, and it's really sad to see. Some of my friends are like, you can just tell they're miserable. Um, like when they're like hanging out with people, it's like they can't. It's like almost like they can't have fun.
Yeah, because I mean, even like you think about nightlife and stuff like that. And if you want to have a drink or whatever, like alcohol is a ton of calories. So that's,
Yeah, you gotta be mindful of even in nightlife. Yeah.
that's an interesting insight, because I feel like we in the media are fed, that there's more body inclusivity and bigger models are a thing. But really, when you get down to it, it feels like it still has a long, long way to go.
Oh, for sure. I mean, plus size models is like a concept that's relatively new.
Right.
I think the industry is still like kind of navigating how to work around that, but it is, it's a step in the right direction. I mean, having more type of people model is, I think, healthy, long term. And then there's like also, aside from your physical looks, like girls have to be wary of just like photographers, right?
Mm,
The creeps,
yeah.
right? We all hear about it. It is unfortunately a thing.
That's really good insight too. And I think, as a male model, one, you can give us that insight, but two, you can give us that insight without fear of it hurting you, I guess, in a way. Because I feel like some female models who are in the industry would maybe not be as willing or as forthcoming with how things are, because you always fear about how is this going to affect my jobs and my outcome.
Yeah, I mean, like guys, we sometimes we do get harassed. I know certain people, but just like a much lower scale.
So like knowing that about the industry, that's kind of like the downside of it. But what are do you like some positives of being in the modeling industry?
some of my favorite things about modeling is that I get to, go to places that I normally wouldn't. I get to meet people I probably would never meet. I think opportunity kind of like it's much different. I don't have to work as hard as people with a 9 to 5, right? Gigs come and go. It's like I'm not working every day. So I do have like downtime for myself and I get to, enjoy things that I wouldn't be able to if I'm working like an office job or anything like that. So
Do you have a favorite place you've gone for modeling?
I definitely have gone to some cool spots. Like one client took me to Montauk,
Oh, cool.
past like the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Um, they had a really nice Airbnb. We stayed there overnight, and clients were like really great people. They cooked and bought like wine and liquor for us to enjoy after the shoot.
Aw.
That was really fun. Core memory for me, for sure. And like the shoot itself was pretty fun too. Like we were by this lake house. So, the views were gorgeous. Weather was just perfect. One of the shots was us at the beach. And we had like a little campfire going. And the people I was working with, the two other models, I mean, they were great too. Like everything it was just a fun time. And that's also another thing with like modeling. Sometimes it doesn't feel like work. Sometimes it feels like you're just hanging out, and getting paid. It's like best of both worlds, right? Like when you can enjoy work.
Right. We talk of in acting. There's the hang is like a thing that we talk about. So it's like the hang, like the in between shots, and like is it like that's a really fun part of acting is if the environment's really good and you're having a great time with the crew and the other actors. It doesn't feel like work. It's just so fun.
But also, not everyone's going to be fun. So there's been times where it's like kind of awkward, like you're not really talking with the other models.
Right. The set's really weird. Yeah. Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and you always get excited when you get on a really good set or shoot, and it's
Oh yeah, you cherish those for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I know like your primary thing is not club promotion, but I am kind of curious about that because that sounds like perhaps a pretty good job for someone working in modeling or acting or just the entertainment industry. So I'm kind of curious, how did that come about for you, or how did you get into that, or and then just kind of how that works? Because again, I don't know anything about club promotion.
So don't laugh, but I got club promoting through Craigslist. I'll tell you, like, this is where it's at. But no, like, I was, at the time I was looking and browsing through Craigslist, I was freelancing for a little bit. And, keywords, model jobs, right? This one listing comes up as a model promoter. And so I'm like kind of confused. Never really heard of that. So I'm looking through the listing. I message and email the guy, and he responds back to me. He's like, "Hey, can you come to this club for like an informal interview?" I'm like, "Okay, I know the place. It's a really popular spot." So I'm like, "Wait, I don't think anything bad's gonna happen." I go, I meet the guy, we talk. It's a chill guy, and he explains to me what like promoting is. He explains to me the industry, right? And so this was like something I had an idea of doing a while back. I just never knew anybody to get like, my into the industry. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. I have like, a bunch of model friends. It shouldn't be too hard. But basically like the job is to host a table at a club and have the table filled with girls, right? That's essentially what club promoting is.
And then wait, how does that help the club though? Is it like they tell their friends, or is that
So club gets their money through clients or people who buy tables, right? If you ever see like the pricing of a table at a club, it's expensive. I mean, you're talking like for, at least in New York, for 6 people, 8 people, you're looking to spend about like 1.2 thousand.
okay? Geez, okay.
And like the bottles that you get are like like if you look at these bottles online or at a liquor store, I mean, they're only really worth like $100 at most
Right.
for like the bottom shelf. So the markup is insane, right? But that's because they need to pay people who work at the club, and it's not cheap. Like promoters, we make like decent money. I earn like a full rate, and that varies from club to club. So the idea is that the people who buy tables are usually like finance guys, and finance guys won't buy a table if the club is empty, right? Or if there's like no girls. If it's just like all guys, like
Yeah, exactly.
it's a little harder, right? Like I think to fill up the space with clients. But yeah, so you want a club filled with girls because it'll likely attract people to buy tables there because they want to hang out with like the pretty girls, right? So club earns money through that, and then they pay out people like promoters. They'll have maybe like I don't know, like 3, 4 promoters on a given night.
Okay, I'm curious. How do you go and find girls? How does this work for you? What's your strategy?
Ooh, so at first it was like kind of difficult because I got into promoting a little late. Some of these promoters are like 10 years into the game, so they already have like a built up network of girls to invite out. And as many girls come to New York City, there is like a finite amount of people that one don't have a promoter,
Right.
two who are willing to go out late and like hang out with like a complete stranger to dress appropriately and be fun. Like it's kind of hard actually. So in the beginning, like I was inviting my friends. I thought it would be pretty easy with the incentive of like free dinners, free drinks, and a table, and like good music at a club. Well, people got jobs, people get tired, so I had to like really find more people to invite out. At first, it was Instagram, right? Just reaching out to like anyone that I thought would be a good fit to hang out with me on like explore page, for example, or like hashtags, I guess. For me personally, it wasn't really working out. So sometimes you can find people like on the street, like maybe in Soho, or bars, right? But I'm like not too extroverted. I am like introverted.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
That was my other thought, just talking to you. My impression of you isn't like some crazy extroverted person who's going to be going up to strangers on the street a lot.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that was like kind of hard for me to do. I think I'm a little better now.
Yeah.
I will like approach someone I think would like want to hang out with me in the club. But primarily, I do use dating apps to promote like a promoting page.
Gotcha.
So Hinge is one that I use primarily. I have set up a profile, and it states that I am a promoter. This is all it is. I'm not really looking to date.
Well, that's cool. That's a good way to do it, though, because that is a huge pool of females that you could potentially be getting to come out. That's actually really smart.
Like, I don't have to swipe for anybody. Anyone that sees my page and is like, oh, I would like to hang out with him for a night, they'll reach out to me because I have my Instagram. They'll reach out to me on Instagram, and it's like free advertising for me. So, and then they come out with me, they have a good night, they refer me to like their friends, and then it's like word of mouth is probably the best way.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because I know you mentioned it at the beginning, so I was kind of like, okay, well, that's a cool like thing for someone to be doing, I guess, and making money, and especially with the industry that you're in, and like you said, gigs aren't always coming in, so, and you got bills, you got to pay bills. So kind of closing out, like my final question for you would be, what is your advice to anyone who is trying to get into modeling?
Trying to get into the industry?
Yeah, like they have no modeling experience. Kind of what's your resources? What steps would you recommend that they take in just trying to get a foot in the door?
Definitely find a couple of models that are like big models, right? Who are very famous, popular. Kind of see what they do, what works for them, and then kind of incorporate that into your modeling persona. I'd say like it's all a persona at the end of the day, and the more you like copy something that works, it'll work for you too. But be patient too. It's difficult to get in. It's not made for everyone. Not everyone makes it into the industry. So if you're like committed to it, I mean, like be patient. It is a whole process, and just keep going, keep trying.
Well, thank you so much, Sonny. I really appreciated talking to you. I'm glad we got to sit down and do this. And I think you gave some really, really good information and insight. Is there anything you want to say in closing or anything you want to share that I didn't ask or?
No, I think I got my thoughts out.
Okay.
But thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really hope that everybody enjoyed this episode and got something out of it, learned from it. I really appreciated talking to Sonny. If you could rate and review the podcast, follow the Instagram, that helps me do what I'm doing. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one.